Hi, my name is Ryan O'Neill Knight, the founder of Detailing Knights and one of the founding members of ACBN Canada. Our vision is to help unite and educate Afrocentric entrepreneurs so they can grow their businesses in a successful and sustainable way. We're helping businesses increase their sales and operations by providing networking, training, and consulting. So as a business owner myself, I found it difficult to find like-minded individuals, especially in my own community, that were doing things on a regular basis to help our businesses grow. ACBN Canada is that solution. We've created this community to surround your business with support to help you increase your sales and your profits. With expert workshops and masterminds to help keep you accountable, come and join us and really get to the next level.
Hey, what is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here. I'm the host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, two-time Canadian Ethnic Media Association award winner, 2020 Best Podcast News and 2018 Innovation Award. And I also host the only monthly online show that's dedicated to fathers and dads that is sponsored by Dove Men Care, the only one in the world, and it's also co-sponsored by Dad Central Canada's national fatherhood organization. And guess who just popped into the screen tonight? The man that you saw in the video, the real star of the show. I'm just helping him out tonight. Ryan O'Neill Knight, what is going on?
I am, as you say, blessed and highly favored, excited about tonight. I feel like 2020 is being wrapped up into a ball. We are moving forward, and I'm actually excited to talk about it. I mean, as a community, we've been through a lot, and usually we don't get a chance to debrief, so I'm happy to debrief with the people them.
Well, how this came about was that about a few weeks ago, I actually had Ryan on the Dr. Vibe Show, and we were chatting, and a number of ideas came from that conversation. There's one or two that you're going to see in the new year. We're speaking it, but Ryan said, you know what? We should do a year-end show about Black Canadian wealth. I said, okay, Ryan, you get the people, and Dr. Vibe and BIA Media will make it happen. So this is how we ended up with tonight. But we have a few minutes. Ryan, what is your reflections about Black Canadian wealth in the year 2020?
It's such a loaded question, but I feel like I always consider it like a roller coaster. You know, there was really deep lows and then really tense like climbs, and as we were like persevering through, especially entrepreneurs, we had to really adapt and figure out, okay, how are we gonna shift with what's happening right now? And a lot of entrepreneurs that I've been talking to, they mentioned that they were almost prepared for this. You know, like they've already been hustling, they've already been kind of grinding through, and then the global reboot. So now everybody kind of had to reboot. But entrepreneurs that were already on the grind said, hey, I'm in my comfort zone. I'm ready to take on the next opportunity. A lot of them started like disinfection companies, PPE companies, shifted to online, helped other people shift online. So it was really, that was the silver lining, where you saw a lot of people take the punch, roll with the punch, and then come up with something new. And even one of our mentors, Robert F. Smith, talks about don't waste this pandemic. I mean, yes, it was a real hard punch, but if you just let it knock you out, really 2021 isn't going to be much better. And I'm not talking about better on the grand scheme of things with like the maybe vaccine coming out or people getting better and COVID subsiding. Just if you're gonna treat 2021 the same as 2020, or especially how you're operating before 2020, you're not prepared. Like the world has shifted and moved on without you. So I'm really glad to hear other people's opinions on how they reflect on 2020. but I really feel it was the battle. Like if this didn't test your acumen, like nothing else will, because there's nothing that's saying 2021 is going to be 100% better. They always say, if you say, oh, what else could go wrong, is when the rain hits or something catastrophic, because there's always something else that could happen. But if you use 2020 as that real test, that real, hey, I can take almost any punch and come back with my own punches, 2021 is going to be amazing for you, because if it's better and you're prepared, like what can stop you?
What are one or two lessons you've learned at the end of this year being a Black Canadian businessman?
The main one is the strength in collaboration. Even with my company Detailing Nights, being able to pair up with, because we do mobile car cleaning, we were able to pair up with a mobile mechanic and say, listen, we're all going through this together. What can we do? You have the same target market as I do. How do we now bring both services to both of our target markets? And that whole concept of joint venture, strategic alliances, mergers and acquisitions, that I feel like is the mindset. That's what I'm taking from 2020. And that second piece is ask for the help. I remember you were on one of those other talk shows with Nicole and oh my gosh, I want to say Karen, but it's not Karen. Bear Slade, sorry. And just talking about the power of asking. And listen, humble yourself. I've like supercharged my LinkedIn to say, hey, if you're connected to me, you're gonna hear from me and you're gonna hear my asks. Like, listen, I need help with X. I'm just putting it out there as an entrepreneur looking to make that next step. And it's amazing how much people want to help. That's what really, it almost humbles yourself when you ask for help and you get a favorable response, because you realize people are waiting for you to ask for help, because a lot of them are in position to help, but then they don't want to be pushy and be like, hey, do you need this? Oh, do you need that? Because a lot of us get defensive. We're like, no, we always say, oh, we're good, we're good. But when you humble yourself, ask for the help, and that person helps, it's an amazing feeling.
As we're getting ready for the first group, we got about a minute or so left with Ryan. You said, for me, two of the key words for business people, Black business people, not only in Canada, around the world, collaboration, you already mentioned. How important is data?
Well, data is where we are going to separate ourselves from the old guard and morph and evolve into the new guard. I feel like even over the last 50 years, and one of our guests, Errol Gibbs, is a mentor of ours, and he talks about repeating the same, what would you call it? Like the same tactics and same strategies that we used 50 years ago, and it's come full circle, and we're still in the same place. So if we're not collecting and analyzing this data, doing these debriefs, that's where I feel like being able to talk to you, being able to talk to our panelists and say, listen, what happened last year? Like, where are you? How did it affect you? What can we do now going into 2021, learning from that? I've never been to a debrief for the Black community. And so maybe to start this tradition to say like, hey, every so often we have to pull out the report card and say, this happened, how did you react? And grade it. Because if we, and I'm talking about ACBN, the Afro Canadian Business Network, if entrepreneurs that are connecting with our organization give us a failing grade on how we supported them, that needs to be addressed. If we just keep going on like everything's fine and everybody around us is giving us a bad mark and we never know because we're not asking, we're not utilizing the data. So like you said, data is how we're going to evolve by being able to analyze it.
Okay, well, thank you, Ryan. Ryan's going to be joining me along the journey for the next little bit, and we should have our first panel ready. So by the magic of production, they should be coming in just a moment. So let's welcome our first panel. So let's get them going on. We have, I know that face. I know that face. I don't know that face. And I don't know that face, but we're going to get to know them. So thank you so much, each one of you, for taking time out of your positive, productive schedule. Ryan, would you like to introduce, or let Ryan introduce?
but I might go long. So I know at top, Doug Minter representing the Black Chamber of Commerce, Station Frederick representing Frontlines. I'm a big fan, inspiration, very inspiring. Actually, that's for everybody, so I'll save that to the end. Christopher Trotman is the co-founder of Trotman Communications and the new Calabash Global. And Chris Bev, my business partner, we're in the space Empowered for X that she founded. So I am super excited to have everybody on joining the discussion.
Okay, well, I'll take it and make it happen. So, folks, again, thanks very much. I know we have limited time, so as much as possible, try to keep your answers to the point and short. So, here's my first conversation point for you. 2020 has come to an end. What have each one of you learned at the end of 2020?
You might need to pick because nobody's going to want to go first.
Okay, I'm going to put Doug Mentor on the phone. Doug Mentor, you go first.
Yeah, I knew you were going to come after me.
You know, because you always come at me, so it's my turn tonight.
I love it. First of all, it's humbling to be on this panel with really great people. And I think that's the answer to the question. When I'm an immigrant to Canada within the past 2 years, and when I set foot here, the thing that I noticed more than anything else was human capital. There's a ton of human capital that represents all of the African diaspora in really large pockets, from Quebec to Vancouver to here in GTA. And when you look at that, I think what this year confirmed for me in 2019, Dr. Vibe, you were one of the first people I met when I came here, and we talked about this Black Renaissance that's occurring, not only in the United States, in Africa, throughout the diaspora, but here in Canada specifically. I could see the fertile ground of it. In 2020, it proved it to me that theory is correct. When I see companies like ACBN, people like Ryan Knight, people like Chris Beth, when I see the things the BBPA is doing, when I see the things the Chamber is doing, that all of these organizations, Tronset, when I see all of this kind of rising up out of the ground, you can see that there's a Black Renaissance. In the midst of COVID, we have a Black Renaissance. And I think that's what I learned the most from 2020.
Ms. Frederick.
Yeah. So I just wanted to, echo some of the pieces that Doug just said. Just very humbled to be here among so many, and thanks to Ryan for inviting me. And actually, very similar to what Doug said is about this Black Renaissance. I think about 2019, which was the return to Ghana. And I feel that was the beginning of this new era that we are entering, and that there is this just great energy that is around about collaboration and working with the Black community and receiving resources for the community. The charity that I run focuses on Black youth and supporting them. And in this year of COVID, I have not seen the amount of donations. In my time being at the executive director, being pulled into the organizations, just receiving calls from so many people from all across the world. So I think it's that sort of learning. And even to tap in what Ryan had said, which is sometimes you also need to ask. So while it's good that people are coming to me and asking if they can give funds to the organization, but it's always positioning myself to say, this is what my community needs, and ensuring that there's resources available to the community.
You are up.
I assume you mean that for me?
You better believe it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for creating this platform and for the opportunity to speak. I think the biggest thing that I learned from 2020 is that you really don't know what you don't know. Coming into 2020, I think there was, especially when everything with COVID hit the fan and things started picking up, there was this assumption that 2020 is going to be a terrible year for everyone across the board, no matter what sector you're in. It's just going to be absolutely the worst. And I think coming out of 2020, many people found an opportunity. People found an opportunity to slow down and reflect. People found an opportunity to pivot and address the weaknesses in their organizations that were always there and that were just highlighted by the stressors placed on those organizations by COVID-19. People found an opportunity to start new businesses. And there was a lot of opportunity for organizations, in particular in the Black community, to find funding. So it's really just an example of you don't know what you don't know, because if you took 2020 at its face value, it would have just been like, I want to skip this year completely. And for many people, it would have meant skipping over a lot of opportunity that was just hidden in the background.
Excellent. Ms. Cowie, you're up next.
I just want to say thank you so much for this opportunity to be here and to be on with other great panelists. And Ryan, thank you so much for the opportunity. One of the biggest takeaway for me of 2020 is realizing if you don't have your health, you don't have wealth. And so really taking a perspective of, a lot has happened. We've had to pivot. You could see the resilience in the community, and a lot of burnout took place as well. And really encouraging entrepreneurs that we work with in our ecosystem to really start thinking about work-life harmony in terms of understanding you can't just focus only on work. You have to still find that place where your mental health and wellness still exists and prevails. We saw the resiliency around pivoting, but really to step back, reflect, and talk about recalibration. That's my word. I've been telling people, how do you recalibrate? Don't reset, because typically when you reset, you're just pushing that button to keep doing the same old. And we know COVID has promoted and pushed us into this digital economy, and really ensuring that we're developing a resilient mindset. We're taking care of our mental health, our well-being as we go forward.
Excellent. So we've got you all warmed up now. So I know when I ask my next question, you're just going to be jumping in. So the next question I have for you, next conversation piece is there have been efforts by municipal, provincial, and federal governments to help out Black businesses. What do you feel, or what are your thoughts on the efforts so far by the governments to help out Black businesses?
I can jump in with some.
I didn't want to call people out.
No problem. And I think that a lot of the efforts have been focused not so much on the for-profit sector and more so on the not-for-profit sector. That being said, I think the issues as it relates to Black businesses extends on both the for-profit and the not-for-profit side. Namely, if you set up this system, this infrastructure that people have the opportunity to access, but they don't have the skills to know how to access it, they don't have the information on how to access it, they don't have the resources to take the time to access it. Because a lot of the biggest thing that is not recognized is that when you're looking at accessing all of these resources, that in and of itself is a process. And that process takes a certain knowledge set and a certain set of resources, human capital, as it were, to actually access those resources. So in the absence of the support to access the resources, a lot of the resources just aren't being used by those people who need it the most. And those people are those who don't have the resources to access that pool of funding, whether you're on the not-for-profit side or the for-profit side. And as a result, it's going to be the same people accessing that pool of resources over and over and over again, the people who already have the knowledge or have the human capital to access those resources. So I think there needs to be something done to address that knowledge gap and that human capital gap that a lot of these smaller organizations, both for-profit and not-for-profit, have.
Excellent. Who wants to jump in next, or I'll call you out?
I can go.
Go. Yeah, all right.
So it's a great question. I really believe that, for the contributions made, you give some applause. Things have been done. Could more be done? I would definitely echo more can be done. When you look at the entrepreneurial life cycle, there's advanced companies similar to what Christopher was just talking. There's certain people at a particular stage in their current business that have the know-how, that have the acumen to access these things. However, if in our network and ecosystem, we work with a lot of earlier stage companies, and as a result of being newly incorporated just under a year or wherever they fell into that, 1 to 5 year, some of them do not have the business acumen to, or were not fully developed to be able to access these funding, and realizing that one of the things that we've decided to do is really create that knowledge, talk about that, the gaps, really enhancing and creating awareness around what is required. The early stages of the pandemic, Ryan and our team did some walkthroughs about the different websites, the SERB website. How can you access the different funding? Sadly, one of the things that we discovered within our community and network is that a lot of our business owners are running unregistered companies, and really bringing to the forefront, you need to be registered, you need to be incorporated, you need to be filing taxes, so that when these moments like these happen, you're ready to take advantage of it. But definitely in terms of the resources that we've seen that's been given out, and I'll give you an example, PPE. So I have a commercial space in Brampton, which Ryan is in, and what we're seeing when they were giving out that $5,000 grant to get PPE to support your organization, it was I was able to check every single box except one. I had to, at the moment, be generating over $250,000. And it's really sad that those types of barriers exist, and it ultimately keeps people out of it.
Is Frederick, who's up next?
Yeah, I mean, I think really great points thus far. My sort of area is more into the not-for-profit sector, but I also do support individuals in the for-profit sector. And very similar to what Chris just stated, is that many organizations don't have the structure to apply for funding. I remember a few years ago, we met with the Prime Minister. It was a group of us Black women met with the Prime Minister and had talked about services and resources for Black women in business. And then there was the funding that came out for women entrepreneurs. And many of the Black women in that particular group could not apply for the funding based on their organizational structure or the amount of money that was needed to access some of these fundings. But we also see that in the not-for-profit sector, where you have so many organizations that are working as grassroots organizations. It's people from the back of their cars that are going off to drop off food, and they don't have some of these structures. One of the things that I like that I'm seeing in the sector, and of course I do hope that there are more sort of funders and even in the government looking at this type of structure, where you could look at partnerships and you could look at trustees in the not-for-profit sector that can help in terms of accessing the funding on behalf of some of these organizations. So I'm hoping to see some of those models even turn into the for-profit sector to help some of these businesses grow and thrive. But there's so much work that is supposed to be done and is needed to be done in our community. And it's networks like ABCN that is about bringing people together and pooling resources to help entrepreneurs.
Okay, Doug Minter.
Yeah, I love what Sachin said, about the trustee piece and creating those frameworks for the nonprofits to be able to get those fundings and leapfrog into some of these grants that they may not have, normally been able to. I think that's a smart concept. I think we have to, when you start talking about government policy is just one component of 6 components, 12 components of an ecosystem. The one thing I do like about what the government's doing, they have seemed to pick up from the variety of organizations that have sent in proposals and talked to them in meetings. they've figured out that there is this thing called an ecosystem, and that is a great thing. Um, the thing that the government has to do is continue to listen, and respond to the needs of the community. And I think there's some opportunities there to create like a council, a small business council at the federal level, at the provincial level, and these advisory councils at the local level. And then all of these practitioners, all of these people that are on these various councils, I would love to see the government fund, or spearhead leading these group conversations, so that we're hearing not only what's going on in the Black community, and that information is getting fed up to our elected officials who work for us, right? That's their job, is to do the bidding of the populace. And then the second thing is we need to have these same practitioners in other cultures, the mainstream cultures, and we need to be interacting with them as well to create bridges to those channels as well. So that's kind of how I see it on the policy side. They're going to make a ton of mistakes. That's the nature of government. But they're going to get some things right, and we need to applaud them when they're getting things right. And my good friend Ryan, he is very steadfast at keeping them accountable when they do something that doesn't make sense or they're not listening to us. So we got to support Ryan as he's doing that, right? We got to keep them accountable, but we also have to applaud them when they do something right.
Okay, we are wrapping. Oh, go ahead, Ryan. Take yourself off mute. Oh, there you go.
I'll leave that to the man. Real quick, and we have to remember the question was, what did the government do for Black entrepreneurs? And it's December, what time is it? December 30th, so there's one more day. There hasn't been any specific initiative roll into Black entrepreneurship pockets just yet. The Ecosystem Fund, nonprofits focused, the Loan Fund hasn't come out yet, and the Knowledge Hub, nonprofits as well. So I'm hoping that maybe New Year's Eve we get a surprise and funds will be deposited into our accounts. But if we're going just by data, there's no initiative that rolled into our pockets yet. So they have a day. But I just wanted to.
I told you, brother Ryan was going to keep you accountable. I told you we got to support him as he's doing it.
I have my press release ready for January 1st.
Okay, folks. One last point, and got to make it right quick because we're winding down fast. Where are the opportunities for Black entrepreneurs, Black businesses going into 2021? If you can keep it to 30 seconds, that'd be great. Who wants to go first?
Oh, I got this one, Dr. Vibe. Let me jump on this. First off, clean tech. Anything in clean energy, we need to be going into that space. That's a huge space. Second, anything related to course building technology, right? We don't have a course builder in the Black community. You've all heard of Thinkific and Kajabi and Podia and all these other platforms. We need somebody in that space that's creating this kind of stuff for us with the tools and accessories that cater to us. And then the third piece would be anything 3PL logistics. If you own property, you own commercial property, 3PL is going to light up. You think it's lighting up now because your Christmas packages are late? It's going to get even bigger.
Okay. Who's next?
I can go. In terms of what I'm seeing, as I mentioned, the digital economy is on us. So definitely, if you're not on e-commerce, you definitely need to get your products on platforms that support your business growth in that space. Looking at as well as you talk about the technology, but blockchain technology is so important, especially around cybersecurity. If we have entrepreneurs that are considering pivoting into different industries, those would be the top two on my list. And then anything tech related, I want to encourage people, like, if you're doing business as you did before COVID, it is not going to look like that after COVID. So you really need to enter into this digital game in a very strong and powerful way. So consider getting reskilled, but tech. think tech first.
Okay. Who's up next?
Yeah, so I'll go. So I think for me, very much in looking at the course building, it's something that is key. Everybody is looking at sort of this virtual technology, virtual learning. I'm a professor at Sheridan College, and of course, that's a lot that the School of Teaching is going to. But the other area that I think is very important is the area around diversity and social inclusion. And many people who are not from our community would like to speak on behalf of our community in the area of diversity and social inclusion. And so I think it's important that many of us develop our skills in that sector as facilitators and trainers, and insert ourselves in the corporate landscape as the qualified lived experience experts on these particular places. And I think that's an area that we need to look at as well.
Excellent. Christopher, you're closing it out.
Perfect. So it's already been mentioned, the digital economy and looking to diversify your business offering such that you can actually play in that realm. One thing that wasn't mentioned from my perspective is social entrepreneurship. This past year, the government has really indicated a desire to fund businesses that are socially focused. But even when you're looking in the private sector and those large institutional investors, they're looking to pivot their investments away from dirty investments and more towards social investments. And frankly, there's just not enough. Yes, there's a lot of social investments in the green sector, like a lot. But when you're looking more broadly into community service focused organizations that are for profit, if you can pivot into that side and grow to a level where you become investable, you provide a great opportunity for those investors that are looking for some place to put that money from a social impact
Wonderful.
lens.
First panel, you knocked it out of the park. I'd like to say Chris, Beth, Doug, Stashin, Christopher, thank you so much. Have a blessed rest of 2020. And we have a very entrepreneurial and successful 2021. We will be getting back in touch with you. So thank you very much, folks. And we're going to get our second panel right. Ryan Knight. Look who's back. Ryan Knight. Yes, we can, Ryan. Go ahead.
All right, awesome. So yeah, something that Station mentioned around people talking on behalf of the Black community that are not from the Black community about diversity and inclusion. That is something that has been happening for a while. And I feel like the spotlight now that the spotlight is on us and there's a lot more, I'll say, volume in the space. There's a lot more companies looking for expert facilitators to come in and do training for their staff and to help with diversity and inclusion and hiring board directors and executives. The Black North Initiative is pushing these CEOs to sign the pledge so that they can diversify their boards. So now companies are scrambling, trying to find, okay, how do I diversify? How do I find this talent? And we're seeing non-Black focused organizations pop up that are helping to fill that role. We that have that lived experience, like Station mentioned, need to position ourselves in front of the flow of money. And that goes for grants, because people who are getting grants need to hire experts that are from the community and they're having trouble finding them. So you that have the expertise and can do this facilitation and can consult and provide services need to be on their radar so that when they get this grant money, they can hire you. When corporations, blue chip companies are looking to do these diversity training or just having facilitators come in, they know where to find you so that they can hire you. That is a big piece, and I know Calabash is being put together to do that. So if you're an expert service provider, please reach out to Calabash and talk about how to get on that roster. So these opportunities you don't miss these opportunities. The money is definitely out there.
Actually, I'll echo that the money is out there. And one of the things, a term that came up in the first panel as we're getting the second one ready, is controlling the narrative. And one of the reasons I started the Dr. Vibe show many years ago was a place for Black people, Black Canadians, Blacks around the world now, where we could control our narrative. It has been too long that people who are not looking like us are talking for us and about us. It's time to make a U-turn with that. Because
And they're
interesting
getting
enough,
paid quite well.
well, you know what? You don't see them having us talk about their narrative.
Exactly. That'll get nipped in the bud.
That won't even happen.
About that culture.
That won't even happen. You know, you and I know the boardrooms that ain't gonna happen.
Yes.
That's not gonna happen. So definitely controlling the narrative, whether it's digital or it's traditional, is very, very important. And the help is out there, folks. All you need to ask. Ryan runs a great organization. The people that were on here earlier and the people that are coming up, ask. If they're not able to you, they're not the only game in town. There are others, and whoever meets with the right intentions and you get along with, that's where you drive it home with. So I'm hoping that we're getting the second panel up and ready. Ryan and I can fill for the rest of the night.
Right.
Oh, so we got Mr. Gibbs is on.
Excellent.
Mr. Alexander, he was on for a bit. He's just chomping at the bit. Ross is good. Okay. And wow, we have the Andrea Pierce. Whoa. All right. So we've got our next panel ready. If we can get them in the screen, we're going to rock and roll with them. So we're just waiting for our production team. Okay. So Ryan, will you do the introductions, please?
All right, so I see I'll go top to bottom. Errol Gibbs, one of our mentors, the writer of the Black Empowerment Manifesto. Chris Alexander from Zoosh. He's been a partner of ACBN, helping us with our business development services. And then Ross Cadaster, the VP from the Black Business Professionals Association, better known as the BBPA. And Andrea Pierce from UNDPAD Push Coalition out in Ottawa, joining us virtually. I feel like COVID has strengthened our virtual muscle, that now we are national, global, international. So glad to have everybody on the panel joining us today.
Everywhere. All right. So thanks, folks, for taking the time to share with us. And going to get right into it because time never lost a fight. First conversation piece. 2020 is coming to an end. Business-wise, yourselves, what have you learned at the end of 2020? And I'm going to go to Miss Pierce first because I know she can rock the house.
You know what I've learned to tap into my creativity and be innovative in what I'm doing. That I know a lot of people talked about tech, but you can be innovative and creative in every area of your life. There's science, there's lots of cross-functional areas that we as business people can learn from to grow our business. Not just look at business, we can look at science, we can look in lots of other areas in the health sector and look at what they're doing and how that can help us in being innovative and creative in our business and being able to pivot in what we do.
Okay. Next up, let's see. Do you want me to call you out or are you going to jump in? Who's going to jump in?
I can jump in.
You better.
I'm a jumper. I like what Andrea said. It's, innovation is key. And I think the biggest lesson is partners. How do you partner as organizations? How can we partner as organizations? And one of the biggest lessons for me is what like industries that we can look at in our community, in the Black community, and partner with them to make our business better. In our business, in my personal business, we have been doing a lot of that this year. COVID has taught us this, that it's important to always innovate for sure, but you can't go it alone. You got to look for different organizations, partners, and people that can work with you in order for you to grow. And that for me was the biggest lesson.
Excellent. Who's next? Okay, Chris, go ahead.
You got me now?
Oh, I think we lost Chris. Oh, there we go. Go ahead, Chris.
In any environment, there's opportunity. Regardless of whatever is happening, you can find a way to move through. I know the fire came through, the dross got burned out, but right now, every single business has to either step up and be part of what's going on, or they're going to be left on the sideline. I think what we have to learn is that we have to work together. We need to figure out where the strengths are, especially in the community. There's so much good things happening around us, but we run in parallel. So we need to find out exactly how we can connect each other together and make sure that there's ways to work together. And I found that out by working with different people in different aspects, in different communities, and in different businesses, that we can find a way to leverage each other to do much better.
Excellent. Errol?
Being a retired analyst, what I look at is what is happening within the Black community. Like what are, let's say, the prevailing impediments to growth within the Black community. So I spend most of my day analyzing trends and looking at what has affected us in the last 50 years, 1970 to 2020, and to try and give some kind of a forecast to where we should be going, or how do we create that infrastructure to take us into that next period of our evolution. So what I've done is one of the essential things that I think we need is to have infrastructure so that we can create what you call vertical and horizontal integration of businesses. We have, for a long time, I have observed, we have created a sort of organizational silos. And what that does, it limits the capacity to do things like portfolio management, to truly understand what the capital needs are in a sort of aggregate sense. In other words, how do we able to extrapolate our aggregate needs if we can't measure at a more corporate level? As an example, one might want to look at, say, McDonald's franchise. You have a corporate entity, and the corporate entity is the home for all the high-level expertise, let's say, in various disciplines. That could be tapped into through what we call vertical integration. And with horizontal integration, it really gives us a more integrated network. It gives us an opportunity to be able to speak from a high-level perspective. Right now, in my analysis, I'm seeing great efforts by a great number of individuals and organizations. But if you look again at the last 50 years, what we would find is after perhaps about $500 million, 50 years, we cannot really quantify what are the comparable benefits that we've had. And when I say benefits, I mean in terms of actual infrastructure. I mean holistic, permanent, macro level job creation infrastructure. We have.
I'm going to have to cut you because we're limited on time. All right. So sorry to cut you short. No problem. So our next conversation piece. What are your thoughts about government efforts to help Black Canadian businesses and entrepreneurs in 2020? Who would like to go at that first? Andrea, I know you're ready.
You know what? I'll take that, because as a part of UNDPAD Push Coalition Economic Inclusion and Development team, we have been working with the government to do a set-aside procurement similar to what's in the US. And they have one here for Aboriginal community so that we can take advantage of federal procurements, because Black businesses have been left out historically, lots of barriers to us. So I think that the government is trying. Of course, the proof is in the pudding, as they say. And what that really means is when we see a policy, not just pilots. We're working on a pilot with Procurement Canada right now for Black businesses. But what we really want to see is a policy in place that's going to set a permanent foundation that Black businesses can build on. Because we've had pilots in the past and nothing has happened. So I am pushing the government on making sure there's a policy. I do think there's an appetite to move forward, but we as the Black community need to still keep pushing and make sure that this is not just face value, that the government is really doing something, and that policy is in place so we don't have to keep starting again and again and again. I know we've played this game multiple times before, anytime there's an election or a change in leadership, we start again from scratch. And we don't want that. So we're pushing the government to make sure that that policy is in place, that those mandate letters, when the government puts it out, have these issues that we've put in that is going to help our community. Because let's face it, we're always the first to be fired, the last to be hired. So jobs are a mirage. It's a fallacy for the Black community. The way we can build wealth is through business, developing our business and getting contracts. And the federal government, we are taxpayers. We're a part of this system. We are entitled to a portion of those as well. And that's what I encourage everybody who's watching to write to their member of parliament and tell them that you want to see a policy for Black procurement strategy for Black-owned businesses in the federal government so that we can move forward from a strong foundation.
All right, Andrea, thank you so much. And that's why she's in Ottawa. She's right beside them. Who wants to jump in next? Chris, go ahead.
Stepping up and putting forward policies and putting forward funds to help. I remember we're behind the 8 ball because the system has worked against us for so many years, and we have to find a way to utilize not what's coming to us as operations, but as seed money to be able to build as we move forward as a community. We need to take every single aspect that the government, every single fund that government has given to us, and work together as a team, not work against each other, to make sure that we find the strengths within each organization and let them do what they're better at, and then we do what we are really good at to make sure that the funds that's coming in from the government will be utilized to take us to another level in terms of employment, in terms of business creation, in terms of access to funds and finance, to make sure that even the organization, the financial institutions, and the ones that have the money, that they'll relax the policies, not make policies that's ridiculous, but policies that will include us to make sure that we see as businesses, seen as people that have the knowledge, have the skill set to make it happen, and that we will work together. So the government should continue to do that, continue to make policies and keep policies in place to make sure that this is not just a fad, but something that's permanent. That will continue to make sure that we've been left behind so much that we have a chance to get ahead with everybody else and to be playing on a level playing field.
Excellent. Errol, I'm going to go to you next.
That procurement is at the apex of how we build equity within communities. But first of all, I would suggest that we find or try to determine maybe 5 specific areas where we feel we have the highest propensity, highest capacity, and then we can go to the government to look at a couple of things. One, not just we want to be part of procurement, but we want to ensure that in terms of procurement, that we do have capacity. So the funds should be sort of focused towards building capacity. What that means is that currently, a lot of the funds go towards programs. So perhaps we need a slight shift in the model towards research and development, because that is where you develop capacity for industrial expansion, industrial growth, because most of these projects tend to be industrial or scientific in nature, where the big dollars are. We probably have about $1 trillion worth of procurement every year. Even the banks are about 65 billion. So there's a lot of money in procurement, but we might want to be more specific and try to determine where we think we have our greatest assets or greatest capacities in science and technologies, where that is. And that might be a way to start some of those conversations. The other thing we could look at, of course, is empowerment zones. And there's a lot of talk, or has been in the past, about empowerment zones. We might want to start to bring that argument or that discussion back to the table to look at how we can be assisted with empowerment zones. But the research and development part is very critical, because with program fundings, you are restricted, you are limited to what you can do. With research and development funding, you can move outside of that box, and that's where you can create, IPOs for projects, or you can take develop ideas to create projects, because that create mass production techniques from those products, and we can become self-sufficient in that fashion as well. So not only getting part of the procurement, is how do we move from purchasing to manufacturing, because that has longevity, as most of you would know.
Okay, Ross.
Yeah, so at the beginning of the pandemic, as we all know, the government put out a bunch of initiatives for Black business. We at the BBPA did a survey and found that the subsidy, wage subsidy that the government put in place, as well as the other initiatives, 80% of our businesses, Black businesses, could not benefit from it, could not qualify for it. So to answer your question, is the government doing enough? It's slowly happening. We sat at the table with the government along with other organizations, and the government's starting to do things. But we as a community, we have to be prepared. And we have to, as businesses, start to prepare ourselves that when these opportunities come, that we're able to take advantage of it. So one of the initiatives that the BBPA has put together is our business advisory and development services, which allows small businesses to be prepared, whether they need help with their accounting to get that in place, the registration, the business plans, marketing, so that it's fine, we can be at the table, but we have to be prepared to take advantage of those opportunities as well.
Well, I'm just going to piggyback onto that. I don't want to be at the table. I want us to build our own table.
Good point.
That's the end goal, to build our own table. So, folks, next conversation piece, and we may be able to get two more in, but I'm going to do this one first. Where are the opportunities for Black Canadian businesses going forward in 2021? Andrea?
I would say opportunity abounds everywhere, right? I think that when we focus too much, I know tech is sexy, my background in tech. I worked in San Francisco for 19 years in the tech sector. So my background is in tech. I'm in software development. I was the director for infrastructure for technology, information technology, and project management office at London Hydro, Bell, and even Infrastructure Ontario. So what I want to say is there's opportunities everywhere. Where is it that your skill set, your competency, and your passion lies? Then people can do it, right? I think if we start niching ourselves and saying, of course, as a Black community, we need to diversify and go into a lot of different areas. But I think that wherever people find their passion and ideas, that's where they should go, where your expertise and where ideas, and then those opportunities will come. Right? It's not always trying to look at tech or look at this. Of course, blockchain is growing. Cybersecurity, IT is a great place, for people to grow their career because there are good jobs in those areas and in high demand. But I would say in general, Black people and anybody at all need to look at what's coming up. Right now, things that are already in place, people you're late to the game. You need to see what's next and prepare yourself for that. Like 3D and the maker area where they're building homes now through that technology. Within 24 hours, they can build a full home. Those are areas that we need to be looking at. Real estate is huge. That's where the government there's so much money there, right? And those are the places we need to go, not all go in the same area. So I think that we just need to get out of the box and look to the future, what's coming up, and position ourselves for that.
Excellent. Just before we get to our next speaker, I was watching a video the other day, and in China, I saw these group of men carry out a box, open up the box, and they opened up a house and had a house ready to go in 10 minutes. I'm going, wow, wow, wow. Who wants to step in next? You know what? I'll just go, Chris. You've been a good point, man. Chris, give it to us next.
The jobs today or the businesses today may not be the ones in the next 5 or 10 years. Innovations is critical. I think business ownership is an important place to start. That we should not just try to be part of the system to be the system, to build our own ecosystem where we can support each other in every single aspect, whether it's a food, a medical area. What you're doing here right now, communication is critical, that we can have our own messaging, that we drive that agenda in terms of what should happen, where it should happen, or education, that we should be educating. Not that we separate ourselves out, but at least we find ways to be in every single industry that's there. The thing about it is that we are in those industries. We're the managers and the lower level people, and we run the place, but we're not making the decisions. And what we have to start doing is being the ones that make the decisions, get the finances, get out there and start teaching the younger people not to go out and look for jobs now, but to start businesses. No, we still need people to be employees. We need a lot of people to be employees, but be good employees. Learn the skills, learn the technology. No, engineering is critical. We don't get a lot of our people into the engineering fields, the technology, and all the areas that we find ourselves in. Just other jobs that's not really, I shouldn't say sexy, but it's stuff that drives the economy, that moves us forward. We need to start moving in those areas, build that, and come together. Let's get that infrastructure together. We use the word loosely, ecosystem and building our own economy, but it's specific areas that we have to find ourselves into and build from there. I think we need to start our own businesses.
Wonderful. Errol.
I said, we need to determine what we are most capable of, because that will give us, our best bang for the buck. It will give us the best benefit for the experiences that we bring to the table. One of the things I would always say, we need infrastructure. We must have an infrastructure, whether it's a blueprint or a think tank of some sort, some kind of a repository that could consolidate all these great minds, all these great thoughts. I still get the sense that the organizational silos are not going to work for us. It hasn't worked in the past, and we still have to think a little bit outside of that box and in a more integrated fashion. Again, I say vertical and horizontal integration, a model we use in all major corporations. I also came from a corporate background, 6 years in the United States, sat on boardroom tables with all some of the largest Fortune 500 companies, advising folks. So anyway, let's get back to us here. We need to look at some of the business models at a more macro level. In other words, some unconventional ways of looking at businesses. And I would say we need to create some kind of a forum that looks at patents and trademarks and copyrights, industrial circuit designs, and new product development, IPOs. Those areas we have to get into. But again, I go back to, what are we most capable of? If we can determine that, then that gives us the fuel to engage in these other exploits. So there's a process methodology for getting to this wealth that we are pursuing, but it's not based on in any way any emotional. And most of you have shared very succinctly that you have been engaged in certain technical fields, so you understand what it means to look at things in a methodical way. And I will go back to, we need infrastructure, and the infrastructure helps us to consolidate the great minds. It gives us a place where ideas could be incubated and could be moved into other areas. One of the other things I would say is
make it quick.
With businesses is undercapitalization of businesses. But you can have great ideas, and you know what the failure rate is. That's because businesses are undercapitalized. So that is a big aspect of it. Can we truly capitalize this business underpinned by a great, excellent business plan, and one that is functional, not a business plan that is made theoretically to raise money from the bank or whatever, that can take you from cradle to grave in your business. And
okay. Thank you very much, Ross.
Yeah, so I'm a little biased here, but I think, all things technologies, particularly around cybersecurity and the cloud, just because of what we've been through around globally. Anything around the digital economy, blockchain, anything around any emerging technology, construction technology. I think there's, you made the point about the house going up in a short space of time. Anything around construction tech, and last of all, healthcare. Anything around innovation in healthcare. I think those are the big rocks for 2021
All right, thank
and
you so
beyond.
much, Andrea, Ross, Christopher, Errol. Thank you so much for your time. Look, you have a good rest of the 2020 and have a prosperous and highly favored 2021. And let's help our people. Thank you so much.
Thank
Sir,
you.
thank you.
Take care. Ryan, how are you, sir? Power going on there, Ryan. Some powerful people going on there. Let's go, Ryan. Can't hear you. We'll go in just a second, Ryan. Not yet. We're still waiting for Ryan. Okay. Well, I'll fill in while. Oh, Ryan, there we go.
Oh, okay, yeah. All right. Two things that I picked out of that conversation that I feel we really have to grab hold of with both hands is procurement and infrastructure. The amount of procurement dollars that flow through the government's hands, and we have to remember the government is in place to manage the money of the people. We all pay taxes. They get this lump sum of money and they use it to build things and get stuff done. Again, we have to position ourselves in front of this flow of money. A lot of us business owners are not even on these bids and tenders or the Merck's websites to be in the game of procurement. Yet we'll talk about, oh, the government should spend more money with us. But when they show us the blueprint and say, listen, this is how you at least get to bid on a contract, if it's more than 2 pages, some of us just put up our hands and be like, it's too much work. We have to do the grunt work up front in order to get in front of this $1 trillion that Errol was talking about. And infrastructure. I mean, we are putting together the Black Business Development Hub thanks to our partners Dream Legacy Foundation and SETC and Empowered Frex and ACBN and the BBPA. The whole Black Business Coalition is about 20 plus organizations that have now, in theory, started talking about collaborating and putting our collective might together. And I feel like having an actual physical building, and I mean, we have a co-working space here, and then the next one is a building owned by Isaac Olawolafe, bought the land, built the building, Black owned. We should really rally around it. So, hey, we have the infrastructure. Let's use that as a blueprint and then create more buildings around the country and hopefully around the world. And procurement. A lot of money is already being spent and we're just not in front of that flow of money. It's time to change that.
You know, it's interesting you say that because up until a few years ago, I was not a big thing about going after the government money, et cetera, et cetera. And then a gentleman said, you know what? You're paying taxes. You have a right to that money. And I'm going, yeah, that you're right. You're right. Like I should go out. It's like my taxes is funding other people's dreams. Well, why not my dreams or my people's dreams?
Yeah, at least to be in position for when they say, hey, we're looking for a media provider that can do interviews or any like something in your wheelhouse that they might already be contracting out for and you just have no clue. And so minimum we should be like, hey, I can do that. At least let me put my name in the hat. Right now, we don't even know what opportunities are there, so we're completely missing it. And then complaining that we're not getting enough business from the government when really we're just not in the right position to get the business.
Yeah,
I think you were saying too, like you think, oh, procurement's not for me. Like I'm a radio show host. Like, no, they contract for this type of stuff.
Oh, I know. Oh, I know. Absolutely. So right now, just doing some filler time before we get our next panel ready. So folks, please bear with us. I know you don't really want to see us. You want to see the big dogs. You don't want to deal with us, you know, but just going to continue going ahead. That another thing that came up with in that panel, especially, was being ahead of the curve.
Yes.
Very, very interesting. And I think part of two things that come to me, I think doing research is important.
Right.
In your field of passion is very, 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 very important. And I mean, people may not like me for saying this, but a lot of times other people may get that money that you're not getting because they're doing the work.
Well, and that's what I feel like 2020 really showed us is when things started to go downhill, there were certain people you saw go into action, and they always pop up on your feed. You're like, whoa, this person, and Station is a prime example of this. I kept hearing Frontlines. Like, Frontlines is doing this. They're feeding everybody. JCA, same thing. They turned their kitchen into community kitchen, and they're feeding senior. I'm like, I have to pick up my game. Like, I can't be sitting back watching everybody else jump into action, and then they'll look at you and be like, well, what are you doing? And it's really finding your sweet spot. So like was mentioned on the panel, finding what you're really good at and then really leaning into it and find like, okay, what opportunities exist in that realm that I can now grab hold of. A lot of times we have these hidden talents, and especially we've been talking about like course creation. Everybody wants to learn. We realize that we're lifelong learners and we can learn virtually. So we can put together our own courses with whatever special talent you have. Somebody out there wants to learn that. And usually we don't think that we're good enough to teach. I think that's completely changed now.
Excellent. Okay, we're going to bring on our next panel. Not everyone is on yet, but in lieu of time, we're going to bring them on. So if our BIA Media, our production team, can bring both of them on, and they're going to be benefited because they'll get more time to share. You know what I'm saying? But if our other panelists do show up, we will include them on the conversation. Ryan, could you please introduce, please?
Absolutely, and pleasure. I mean, it's a pleasure to introduce everyone, but Ivor Christopher, he is I'll say the general manager, or he can correct me.
Chair, I'm the chair.
Chair, okay, chair of PACU, the Pan-African Credit Union, which is very important when we're talking about infrastructure and things needed in the Black community. And Yuri Hutchinson, and again, is it president, founder, chair?
Well, it's Chairman Seal.
Why don't we just say everything?
Yeah,
everything.
Of Krifika, and Krifika's been a great, I feel, connector of different organizations in the Black community, and they're really becoming the glue to make sure that we're all working together and with one mission, one message. So really appreciate you taking the time.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for taking time out of your positive, productive schedules. And you're going to have a lot of time because right now it's only you two, so you got a chance to expand and do all you need to do. First conversation piece. We're coming to the end of 2020. As a business person, what lessons have you learned over this year?
Can I answer that?
You could, well, absolutely.
Well, I just like to make sure. What I learned mostly was to listen and be humble. You know, I've seen a lot of organizations, a lot of businesses out there in the community, you know, them doing their work, but it's actually listening to them. It's listening to their needs, their wants. You know, I'm not saying it because Ryan's heading this, but, you know, I've seen a lot what Ryan's done. And, you know, you learn from a lot of other organizations out there, what they're doing with them and the feedback that they're giving you. A lot of the organization or people, there's a massive echo.
No problem.
But a lot of the people who give their feedback, you know, they really will be very descriptive and let you know that what you've done for them, and it's depending on what they say. So what I've done usually is anytime I'm with my wife, thank God she always listens to me, or she's always there, and then she pulls me away. But when I speak to a lot of the African and Caribbean businesses, I do ask them a lot of questions. Even if I come to order food, I still ask, what is it that you need to be improved? What is it that you are seeing that's plaguing your business, or the challenges, or what can we do? And I explain, I run an organization. We work with or partnered, or we have coalitions with different other organizations and businesses, but how can we help to improve your business and to make it better? Or what are the challenges you're seeing? What is it that we're not doing properly? So it helps us, or it's helped me develop a lot of ideas in the organization. And, you know, our boards really sit down to look at creating surveys, but, you know, town halls, but not just town halls that specifically want to hear your needs and for you to address it, instead of us just talking more about, you know, who we are and what we can do for you. We want to know what you can do for us. So it's just being more humble to listen to the community. And, you know, then it also enables you to partner up with the right people who are doing the right things. So, you know, we've been very fortunate to partner up with a bunch of people, with Ryan, such as yourself. You know, Ivor has been wonderful. Just, you know, support. You know, we want to support also the organizations that are out there that are doing the hard work, and for us doing the background administration. So for me, and for us at Crifica, it's just been more how to be more listeners and not more talkers.
Wonderful. Ivor, you're up.
Is that things that happened, like, we just went through a very, very tough 2020, and things that people would normally think that are impossible become possible, right? An example is where I work. Working from home was not considered productive. Now it is, and organizations have found out that actually they're more productive with having people work from home than having people work in the office. So you got to learn to make the impossible possible, and to be able to look ahead and say, okay, what is it that right now I would love to do, but for whatever reason I cannot do. So there's a saying by Robert Kawasaki, and it's to paraphrase it, it's not so much what you can't do or I can't do this. It's just say, how can you do it? So you rephrase it and just saying, oh, I can't do it. And it's like, no, if I can't, how can I do it? So that's the way you have to rephrase or reframe your lens, your mind. It's say, not so much I can't do it, but how can I do? How can I get there? That's one of the things that has really brought forward to me in 2020 is that, looking at ways to overcome obstacles, because there's a lot of opportunity there if you learn how to overcome those obstacles.
Wonderful. Great stuff. Let's go to our next conversation piece. The number of governments, federal, provincial, municipal, have tried to put some efforts to help Black Canadian businesses. What are your thoughts on their efforts so far?
Well, if you want me answering, I think while I've been watching the whole time, a lot of people covered a lot of the topics or discussion. What was said, what they do. They've done. I think there still could be a lot of things done more with the government that they need to push. And like what Ryan said, the programs, we have one more day till something actually delivers. So I personally think that there could be more done on the government's part. We do speak to some government officials, but again, we're only one organization. So I think that we need to have a more pressing mandate and a more sorry, just because you guys covered a lot of it, and I thought that was really well done. So I'm just trying to cover my points, but I just don't want to overlap. So I guess if Ivor jumps in, then I probably will come back with more points, if you don't mind.
Sure, no problem, Yuri. I think what the various levels of government have done it's a good first step, right? But more needs to be done. Ryan mentioned in the previous segment about getting access to government contract, right? That would be a great first start, a great next step if more Black businesses were able to access those government contracts because they're quite lucrative. There still needs to be more focus on building up the Black infrastructure of businesses. For example, to apply to a lot of these funds that they have pushed through, you have to go through either a white organization or a white financial institution, and you still run into those same systematic barriers. They're still there, right? It's just that they've made these funds available, but in talking to some government officials, it's hard doling out those funds because not enough people are being qualified according to the requirements. Because you're still running into those same systematic barriers. So we really have to look at those systematic barriers and say, okay, what is it that we need? Where can we, progressively target to help build up Black businesses, the Black community, and their infrastructure? So those are the next steps.
Go ahead,
Right.
Yuri.
No, and you're right, but I also feel strength in numbers. Remember, I remember we were speaking about that, and I agree with Dr. Vibe. It's having our own table, and when we create our own table, we create our own power, but also economic power. The government's like your investor. They want to see what you do in your community first before you come to them. It's in any business investor. Government's your biggest investor to your community. So when they give you grants or they give you funding, they're looking at, okay, that's why they ask you for your numbers, $250,000. But you have to see what you can do together with the people at your table. So linking together, creating that the economic wealth within your organization or organizations that you work with, then it will enable for you to make that difference by stepping in as organizations for the businesses to help them. Because I feel it's the responsibility of our organizations that need to push the government to able to release these funds so we can actually run our narrative with those funds.
Okay. Because there's only two of you, I'm going to get in a question that because of time, I can get in with the other. So I asked you about the thoughts about government efforts in regards to helping Black business. What about the efforts by the private sector to help Black business? Is it anything? Does your answer change in any way?
Well, to what Yuri was saying, we've got to create our own table. We've got to help ourselves. There's the analogy that I keep, or the examples that I keep talking about, at the various town halls that we had. I've been in Toronto and Canada for over 50 years. Now, in all those years, I've only driven to one gas station that was Black owned. I do not know any grocery stores, major chains that are Black owned. Yeah. I do not know any pharmacies or medical clinics that are Black owned. I don't know any convenience stores that are Black owned. We keep saying, how very little the money stays in our community. And the reason for it is, I just named off four different industries where you spend your money on a daily basis. Yet we do not have a presence in those industries. So where we spend our money on a daily basis, we are not there. So of course the money's not going to stay in our community very long. It's just mathematically, right? So we need to be able to get into those. As Yuri just rightly said, we need to build our own table where we're all at the table and we're all helping each other. So privately, that's going to be hard because we are going to be competing with them. You know what I mean? They're going to be helping their competitors.
No, it's true. No, it's true. Exactly what Ivor said. And he said, we don't own we don't own big supermarkets. There's gas stations. From what I always understand, and you look at any business, or I'll give you an example. There's a Freshco's in Toronto, and a lot of the Freshco's work together to decrease their efforts in buying it by bulk. So when they buy it by bulk, it decreases the amount of cost that they're going to have to charge you. So whenever you see a mango that's 99 cents or 69 cents, you look at, because they work together, whether they're all Freshco's, they don't even have to like each other, but they work together because they see the betterment of empowering their Freshco's economically. So, and to touch on Ivor's point is that if we, and I know that we have the potential and we are doing that, but when we do get to do these things, then it generates more wealth, and that's when it can keep the wealth within, but also in the private area, it's up for us to help navigate those people that are there. And Ryan, Ivor, and a lot of everyone pushed about financial literacy. That's the biggest thing that's in the Black community. What we need to really know, there's a lot of things that we don't know. I've worked for a lot of non-African corporations, and when they teach you financial literacy, there's a lot of things Even people who step in Primerica, they teach you a lot about financial literacy. Wealth, I can't remember that, WEG, they teach you a lot about financial literacy.
World Financial Group.
World Financial Group, sorry, thank you. But again, so once we learn about the basis of financial literacy, then we're able to empower our community and then learn about keeping our wealth. I just hope that this whole, what happened with George Floyd and what's keep happening to us as a people, that we're not looking at this as a fad and saying buy black. It's just we want something to be more permanent and for us to, to keep it stuck in our community. That's why it's, I was looking at 365, the legacy. So it's about building wealth.
So gentlemen, where are the opportunities for the Black businesses and Black entrepreneurs going forward in 2021, in your opinions?
Okay, Yuri, I'll go.
Sure.
Actually, here's the thing. This is what I would do as a businessman, right? Or a potential businessman. Look at what is going to be needed come, in the new post-COVID-19 era, right? There's a lot of stuff that's going to be needed just around the healthcare sector, mask, we're going to be wearing masks for a while, all the PPE, the vaccine is not just the vaccine, you have the little bottles, you have the needles. There's so many things that's going to be needed. People are going to be working more from home.
Mm-hmm.
So there's going to be a whole industry around that. Technology is going to start. You think technology have progressed over the last 20 years? You're going to see what's going to happen over the next 4 or 5 years. You're going to see where technology goes. Because of now, people are going to be working from home, and the advancement in technology is going to be even more important and more critical to push that growth from working at home. So those are areas I would look at. Also, this sounds kind of, harsh or bad, but there's a lot of people who have either lost or going to lose their business, but that's because of cash flow. They don't have enough cash to get them from now until when things are, I wouldn't say back to normal, because things are not going to go back to normal, but where things are where we could actually go out and gather. So there's going to be a void that's left, right? People are still going to want to go out to restaurants. They're still going to want to go out to ball games and plays and whatever. But you're going to find that the ones that do survive, they're going to reap the benefits because there's going to be less of them, right? So look at, maybe I will invest in a restaurant or something like that. And again, also, there's a lot of people moving out now because they can work at home. They're moving out to the 905. So as I just mentioned, we don't own any convenience stores. So go out and get a convenience store that, that maybe not exists right now, but, in a year or two, when the 905 area builds up, they're going to need a convenience store. They're going to need a gas station.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to need a pharmacy, right? Look at those areas for opportunities.
All right. Yuri, you're closing us out.
No, yeah, and Ivor, yes, you touched the point. Those are great points. I always say look at also your organizations too. What's going on right now. There's an open market, we'll say, in the Black community, in the sense of the funding's coming out where you need to get your buddy. But yes, everyone points to technology and healthcare. I always say, I'll say this in a broad sense. Take a step back and look at how the world is working and find your niche and where it needs and where you can apply that opportunity there. So in the sense where if you see this as something needed, what Ivor was talking about with the masks, people are going to need certain things. It's the needs and wants. So you're going to have to try to look at what is needed in today's society and what they want in today's society. So it's very important because if you notice, this is going to be a very competitive market, especially in the Black community too, but also in the broader community as well. You're going to start looking at the big corporations are falling, but they made the dollar store and that compete against them. So there's always a niche. There's going to be something that's going to outbeat the dollar store. There's going to be another niche that's going to be in there. So there's a lot of opportunity there, but it's just that you have to look at the things where you find where you can fit in as an entrepreneur and into the community. Like you said, there's, like Ivor said, there's gas stations. Next year, start a gas station. Next year, but also turn to other sources of areas that can give you that money or lend you that money or give you the grants or so on. So it's very important to explore your options and to be more open to look at those opportunities, but to build and find that niche within.
Good stuff. Well, as one of my mentors said, and I just add on to what Yuri said, find the need and fill it. Don't find the need and kill it. So Yuri, Ivor, I'd like to say thank you so much for taking time out of your positive, productive schedules. We're wishing you a great end of the 2020 and a prosperous 2021. And Ryan Knight is back. Ryan Knight, what's up?
Yes, let me know when you can hear me. Super excited. This, I mean, I'm biased. This was fantastic. I felt like I was a fly on the wall just listening to other leaders of our community give us their take on 2020. I feel like we could do better in 2021, and it has to be purposeful. We won't do better just by accident. And yeah, I'm super excited. Again, no matter what punches we took, we're still here. If you're alive, you have opportunity and you can move forward in strength and not be a victim. I'm excited about 2021.
Excellent. Well, you're ending 2020 with a bang because you got a giveaway. So do tell us about it.
I do. So the Afro Caribbean Business Network, we created a little susu that we've been running for the past, like 6 months. So every 10 weeks we have a new round. And so our draw
Can I just
is
interrupt?
$1,000.
Some
Yes.
people may be watching. They may not know what a susu is. So you may want to
Pardon,
don't make assumptions that people know what it is.
We actually called it the Pardna Sue because some of us are Jamaican, some of us are African. Some call it a Pardna, some call it a Susu, where every week you put in a certain amount of money, called the hand, and then each person gets a draw. So we had 10 participants over 10 weeks. So every week you'd put in your $100, and then the draw would be $1,000. So ACBN got our final draw of $1,000, and we decided to do a business grant. So ending off the year, people on Instagram could tag a Black business owner that they know have been hustling, they know that could use a boost going into 2021. So I was doing the randomizer on the Excel spreadsheet. I apologize, it took me a while to get all the tagged individuals into the spreadsheet, do the randomizer, so it should be done now. So the person that is at the top, let me just pull it up on my Excel spreadsheet. Hold on. I think it's in. All right. So I made a new one. Hold on, it's not in that one.
Now, Sarah Yongo, all Black folks know what a susu is. I don't believe that because I got Americans that are watching. They don't know what it is, Sarah. I don't like to make those assumptions.
So drum roll, please. Cakes by Soap. Hold on. So Cakes by SOPE tagged from May's Kitchen. So From May's Kitchen is the winner of the $1,000 business grant. And so, but if we check this business and it's not a Black-owned business, or if they are not in Canada, the next person would win. So stay tuned. We'll do the announcement after I do our due diligence and make sure that they're actually a business owner. But also the great thing is, so congratulations to From May's Kitchen. I'm gonna reach out to you tonight and we will coordinate getting you the $1,000. But every other person that was tagged, ACBN has created our own marketing agency. So we are gonna touch base with you. Over the next month, we are still gonna be in Susu, so you're automatically entered into the next grant that's gonna go out for $1,000. And we're gonna touch base with all these business owners and see how we can support and get them, perhaps we'll help them earn their next 1,000 by helping them with their marketing free of charge. We just wanna support as many Black-owned businesses as possible.
Wonderful. See, you're watching. You could have won $1,000, but you know what? There was more than $1,000 worth of information that was put down tonight. So you can take that information and you action upon it. You're going to get more than $1,000 reward. So Ryan, any closing comments? I have a few, but you're the lead guy. You made this all happen. Any thoughts before we start closing it down?
I'm looking forward to hear your closing. For me, again, I'm excited about 2021. I always look at a little card that's on my desk. My business partner, Chris Beth, gave it to me, and it says, "Thou hast seen nothing yet." And it always inspires me to know that there's more that you can do. No matter what you've done up to this point, thou hast seen nothing yet. There's always a next gear, there's always a next tier, and so keep striving. We can persevere through a lot. Our history is deep, and it's so deep and rich with the perseverance of the Black community, the African culture, and us taking so many punches over the years, thousands of years, and always being able to rebuild and come back on top. And now we're here. Let's actually do good by our forefathers and show them that we can work together and amplify everything that we're doing.
Okay, there's someone watching live. Can you just repeat who won the $1,000 again?
Yes, it's from May's Kitchen.
From May's Kitchen. All right, fantastic.
Yes.
Well, I'm just going to take a real quick few moments and some of the many things that resonate with me. Love how Doug Minter said Black Renaissance. Well, was when I first met Doug Minter. He is Black, yes, Doug Minter, and he was up from the States, and he said, "Man, there's like a Black Renaissance happening in Canada." So this is great. The importance of processes, very, very important. I had a chance to have a conversation with the Les Brown the other day, and he said something very important. He said, "Learn, earn, and teach."
Okay, I love
Learn, earn, and teach. Definitely the importance of e-commerce, whether you like it or not. Now we're in a digital world, folks. So if you don't know how to do it, hire somebody. And also there's something called YouTube. Watch YouTube videos or go to organizations like some of the ones that we're here tonight to help them teach you. Ryan is in your screen. He'll give his contact information in a moment. They'll help you level up. One of my mentors, Mario Armstrong, vulnerability is the new currency.
Okay.
Vulnerability is the new currency. Be ahead of the curve. You have this, if you have access to the internet, do your research. A lot of times, people who do the research and do the work end up getting the prize. We also said collaboration collaboration, and Ryan and I said at the beginning, collaboration and data are going to be key going forward. Make sure you do things with the right intent. And what I mean by that is it's not all about you. It's about bigger than you. It's about the community. And something that a lot of business people may not tell you, be a good human.
Right.
People ain't going to want to buy from jerks or hire you if you're a jerk. Sorry to just say that.
You'll learn that
but being a good human is a very, very, because people will buy from people who they like. They like you before they buy from you because there's someone else offering it. They may look like you or they may not look like you.
Right.
So those are my last few words. I want to give a heavy, heavy bow, bald-headed Dr. Vibe bow to Ryan Knight, who brought all these wonderful individuals together to share with us tonight. Ryan, thank you so much as always.
No,
a pleasure. I don't even work with you. We just
panelists.
do things together. And
Yes.
I'd like to say thank you. Thank you to your family. Thank you to your organization for making it an epic event. How can people get in contact with you and your organization?
For the organization, the Afro Caribbean Business Network, be sure to check out our website. It's actually going into a reboot, so it should be launched within a couple of days, but it's live still. So acbncanada.com. Check us on Instagram, acbn_Canada. And if you want to get in contact with me direct, best way is WhatsApp. Add my phone number, 647-225-3309. You could also try to call it, but it will go to voicemail. My virtual assistant will get back to you eventually. Text me or WhatsApp me if you really have something to talk about with your business, and especially if you're looking for funding, looking for help with your marketing. Plug in, connect with me. My number is there, 647-225-3309, and we'll plug you in.
Okay, and do you want to just thank our sponsors, or do you want me to take care of that one for you?
You could. I really want to thank our panelists, everybody that
Yes.
took time. I know we started late, and I mean, short notice, Dr. Vibe and I were talking about this concept, and he said, okay, who is interested in being on the panel? And you really showed through, and I really appreciate that. And shout out to behind the scenes, Derek Fagan of DF Media Productions, putting the next tier of video productions, and Luke of BIA Media. I mean, this This I wasn't even expecting. I know when we had the Legacy Symposium, Dr. Vibe, you were there. That to me was like more than expected. And now being able to talk with you again, do a debrief, talk about Black community and economic development, and with all the panels, the leaders from the community just giving their feedback, it's been amazing. And I want to thank everybody that helped to put it together.
Outstanding. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Dream Legacy Foundation, Empowered 4X, Alterna Savings, Stetsi, Detailing Nights, and of course, the Afro Caribbean Business Network. I'd like to thank everyone who watches live or on the replay. It's appreciated, not taken for granted. I see a comment here. When is the next conversation? Don't worry. Once we end, we're going to be planning the next conversation, because we do our next conversation once this one finishes. So there'll be more to come. Follow us wherever you can on social media. Best place to get a hold of me is the drvibeshow.com. Again, Dr. Vibe, two-time Canadian Ethnic Media Association award winner. Also, I host the only online conversation in the world, the only one monthly for dads and fathers, that is sponsored by Dove Men Care, and it's also co-sponsored by Dad Central Canada's National Fatherhood Organization. And one other thing that's happened in the last 30 days, I'm now the board chair of an organization called the Global Food and Drink Initiative, which is a nonprofit media entity based in the United States that is showcasing Africans around the world in food, drink, and travel. And believe it or not, it's based in the United States, but I was asked to be the chairman here in Canada. So global, folks, global. So
100%.
as always, I like to say, live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. Block assumptions and aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Remember to give yourself grace, not only 2020, but going forward. And then love, faith, and respect. And big thanks to BIA Media. God bless, peace, well, and keep the faith. And we'll be back soon because you want us.